Thank you, Alan, for that accurate introduction. This is the main woman in my life, Lizanne Gilbert. Today is our 24th wedding anniversary. Which is really ironic given the title of my talk, The Other Women and Men in My Life. This is the first one. It was a massive hurricane. This is a picture of its eye wall, which was 3 miles high as it passed across the southern tip of Florida. It got over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico and intensified. It turned north and slammed into the Gulf Coast just east of New Orleans, Louisiana, pushing the storm surge up and over the levees, drowning people in their attics. And the year was 1965, and the name of the hurricane was Betsy. And the people of New Orleans said, we don't want this to happen again. And the engineers were charged with figuring out how to make it so that it didn't happen again. And thus, the hurricane protection system was born. 350 miles of earthen levees, walls, and gates intended to protect the greater New Orleans area from storm surges. I was also born in 1965. Hurricane Betsy came 6 months after I was born. This is a picture of me with my older brother, Mike. This is my mom. This is a picture from 1975 from a yearbook of a junior high school where she was a science teacher. My mom was inspirational. She is one of the few women who graduated with a degree in mathematics from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 1952. Yeah. She was also a really hard woman, maybe not coincidentally. She had very, very high expectations, and I don't think I was ever able to fully please her. And her inspiration and the drive that she gave me have been instrumental to my career. I followed her footsteps to the University of Illinois, getting a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. After graduating, I went to work for Golder Associates full-time as a geotechnical engineer. In 1990, went back to the University of Illinois to get a PhD while still working part-time for Golder. And as I was finishing up my PhD, the next major hurricane entered my life. In 1992, Hurricane Andrew plowed through 4,000 offshore oil and gas platforms in the Gulf of Mexico. These platforms had been constructed primarily between 1966, right after Hurricane Betsy, and the mid-1980s. And this was the first storm to have loaded these platforms to what they were designed for. And we were able to learn all sorts of things about both structural systems and foundations, as well as hurricane loading from what happened. And I got to be a part of that through my PhD advisor, Professor Wilson Tang. The next major hurricane that entered my life was in 2004 when I was a professor at the University of Texas at Austin. Hurricane Ivan, to this day, has produced the biggest waves ever in the Gulf of Mexico that we recorded, 125-foot waves on the east of its eye. And Hurricane Ivan, like Andrew, also caused significant damage to the offshore oil and gas infrastructure. This particular platform was a 600-foot high structure that was toppled by a mudslide in Hurricane Ivan, and to this day we are still struggling with containing the leaks from the wells from that platform. On August 25th of 2005, I was at a meeting in New Orleans at the Mineral Management Service to talk about this particular platform. 4 days after that meeting, 2 of the people I was meeting with lost their homes in Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina, 40 years after Hurricane Betsy and 20 years ago now, yes, I am 60 years old, took almost an identical path to Hurricane Betsy. It produced the largest storm surge that we have ever recorded in the Gulf of Mexico, exceeding 30 feet in some locations. Like Betsy, it pushed the storm surge up and over the walls and the levees. It opened up 50 breaches in the hurricane protection system, and people again drowned in their attics. And the question was, why? How did this happen? What happened to this hurricane protection system that was supposed to protect the people of New Orleans? And I was very fortunate to be part of a panel put together by the American Society of Civil Engineers to try to answer that question. And the simple answer to that question is it happened because the hurricane protection system was not treated as a system. For example, there were large pumping stations, some of the largest pumps in the world in New Orleans, designed to get floodwaters out that were not designed to withstand a storm surge. So when the storm surge came, not only did it take the pumps out, but now those pumps were not available to pump out the floodwaters after Hurricane Katrina. What I personally learned in working on Hurricane Katrina was about the people. Before Hurricane Katrina, I was not a big fan of New Orleans. After Hurricane Katrina and getting to know the people and the communities, it's now my favorite city in the world. And what I learned is how what we do as engineers is so important, because if you take away shelter and you take away water and you take away power and you take away transportation and you take away waste management, it's not very long at all, as in a couple of days, before you take away civilization. What I also learned is holding paramount the health, safety, and welfare of the public is not such an easy thing to do. It would be easy to protect the people of New Orleans by saying no one can live in New Orleans. But that would mean getting rid of a wonderful culture, a wonderful community, and the fourth largest port in the world. It's a challenging thing to do, and it requires working with the public to figure out what that balance is. And I was so inspired by that lesson that I wanted others to learn that. So I started bringing groups of students and engineers over to New Orleans in order to help in the rebuilding effort and help learn that lesson. And that's now turned into a class that every one of the seniors in our program takes, where they work on public service projects to learn about the importance of working with the public. What came out of Hurricane Katrina and the lessons that were learned was a new system. The hurricane protection system was rebuilt, and it's now called the Hurricane and Storm Damage Risk Reduction System, which is not so easy to say, but it's a much more accurate name than Hurricane Protection System. It was finished in 2011, and 10 years later, Hurricane Ida came along and loaded that system and parts of it to its capacity. And the system, for example, this brand new pumping station, performed extremely well. And that would be a good ending to my story, a happy ending, except that's not the full story. The reason I call this the other women and men in my life is because working on all these hurricanes has gotten between me and my family. I struggle with being a workaholic. That's my youngest son, Graham. He was born several days after Hurricane Katrina. You remember where I was several days before Hurricane Katrina? I wasn't at home helping Lizanne get ready for Graham. I was working in New Orleans. This is a picture of that first group of students and engineers that we took to New Orleans. And there I am, the admired Dr. Gilbert, sitting right in the middle of it. I really wanted my family to experience this with me, so I brought them with me. Where are my 4 kids? They're not in that picture. They're exhausted. They're still sleeping in a school. And where is Lizanne? She's right there. She had a rough night sleeping on a gymnasium floor with 1-year-old Graham. But I really wanted her to be in this picture. So I woke her up and dragged her out here to be in this picture. And while I was really happy that she was in that picture, she was not happy with me at all. Can you tell? To this day, she reminds me of this picture to keep me grounded. And what I've learned in all of this is, in order to be a good engineer, you have to be a balanced person, and you have to balance work and life. And because I suspect I'm not the only one in this room that struggles with workaholism, I'd like to provide you with a few tips that I try to follow to help me be a better person and engineer. Number one, I really need to be in tune with myself and with what's driving me. Number two, I need to be willing to reach out for help from my colleagues, from my friends, from my family, from professional therapists. Number three, I need to reach out to myself for help. It's hard to be a good person for other people if you're not a good person to yourself. And number four, I need to constantly work on this balance between life and work. It's not an engineering problem that I can solve and say I'm done. Every day, every hour, I need to be trying to balance life with work. And if I can do that, then hopefully I can be as good of a partner to Lizanne in life and work as she has been to me. Thank you.